for someone that you might just like meet on the street or like in an elevator or in just like a business kind of setting, and they wanted to know more about Fire and Forte, what do you tell them?
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm passionate about women winning in the AI age. I think that AI can be a massive positive thing, but I think we need to give more people access to those skills in order to leverage this vast amount of experience that people have got, but transfer them into the AI age. So I work with enterprises and individuals to help ensure that women thrive in the future of AI.
All right, folks, we're back for another Getting to Know the Community podcast, and this time we've got the lovely Hannah Maud. Hannah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. This is an absolute privilege to be here, so thank you.
It's not a bad looking venue, is it, with the views that you've got out here?
I actually feel like we're the headliner of Vivid right now, rather than anything else, so people are probably going to be gathering outside for us. Is that right?
I think so. I have told everyone that I walk past on the way to the studio today, but you can see that maybe you can't see it on there, but there's a Vivid sign in the background. There's the Opera House over there, and a whole lot of other stuff going on in Sydney. So it's great. But you're heading overseas soon, aren't you?
I am. So I'm going to London next week, which is home. Well, actually, north of England is home. And I'm so excited because I'm going via France and then going to so I'm going to have a bit of a holiday in between, and then going to London to really try and learn what's going on with AI over there. So
Amazing.
Mega excited.
I would be super excited. I used to live in London, so like I missed the place. I moved in 2018, so I haven't been back since. So I'm sure there's a few things that have changed, and it's going to be great. But yeah, you're from there. Let's get into that before we get into what you're doing with Fire and Forte. What's your story? How did you come to be here in this space, being interested in tech and AI and teaching it? And just what's your story in a nutshell? No pressure.
Well, as I said to you earlier, a year ago, I came to your data science meetup, and so much has changed in that year. So if we rewind a bit, my background is retail and CPG. So a real passionate marketeer, moved into sales a bit later, worked in the UK for companies like Sainsbury's, and then moved over here, which is a retailer. And then in 2016, moved over here and moved really into the CPG space.
What does CPG stand for?
CPG, consumer packaged goods.
Okay.
So think about your Omo, your Rexona, your tins of beans, all the essentials.
Everything that I've used today.
Glamorous day on the tins of beans. So working for really big organizations, but not tech organizations. And the reason that I'm here now is because just before I came to your meetup, I turned 40 years old. I use that as a springboard to, it's a great age, Mark.
40 is the next 30. I'm in my 40s as well. People may not know this. So yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I really did not know that.
I'm 42 this year.
Oh my gosh, we're the same birth year.
Getting to know the community, folks.
Oh my gosh, well, there you go. You see, this is the secret of success, being in your 40s.
Oh, absolutely. It's a sweet spot.
It really is. So it inspired me so much because I decided to really celebrate it and make a big thing of it, because society tells you that you shouldn't, especially as a woman. And I wasn't having any of that. I had never been happier, I would say. So I decided to start a podcast interviewing amazing women doing awesome things, and started interviewing women in lots of different fields, and started meeting women who were in their 40s, whether they had a tech background or not, were doing awesome things in tech.
Wow.
It was incredible. And I'll come on to that in a bit, because just to follow the thread, I felt like I'd found something in me that lit me up from a purpose point of view.
Okay.
So I was working at Unilever at the time, requested a career break. They were very supportive. And the tech part comes in because I was working in a digital commerce role, but felt like I was not able to really get enough time to keep myself really upskilled in areas that were emerging, like metaverse, big at the time, blockchain and AI. So I set sail, as you might say, to Bali. As you do, and carried on the podcast interviewing these incredible women, and at the same time started upskilling myself in AI and that kind of thing. And then when I came back to Australia, I just realized that there were so many people like me from non-tech backgrounds who didn't have the time to go on a career break because I don't have any children, right? You can't leave children, flying solo. And I thought these women are so amazing and yet so potentially at risk of job cuts when AI comes. How can I help get these kind of women to get the skills that I feel as though I've achieved and built up over this time? So since coming back last year, I started doing my own events. I'll be honest, inspired by yours. I was in the small room in the Microsoft Reactor at first. And started doing women and AI events. So since then, I've been running various different upskilling programs for women from non-tech backgrounds to upskill in AI.
That's amazing. What a wrap up about what you've been up to. And when we met and you reached out to us wanting to do events together, and I remember you were telling us about the type of things that you were looking to teach and create. It's been amazing to see just how far you've come in what feels like a short period of time. Maybe I don't think it's been a year, but maybe it has been. Who knows?
Good memory. The first event was last July.
It's almost a year.
So it's almost a year. And yeah, it takes quite a lot of bravery to do it, doesn't it? I mean, we've talked about these events, and you stand up and you think, what am I doing? This is nerve-wracking. And what if nobody turns up?
You put yourself out there.
You do, yeah.
To be judged, essentially.
Exactly. And that feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is potentially like a birthday party where no one turns up. And yet I just feel continuously rewarded. Not everything goes smoothly at all, but I love it. And I love getting positive responses from people.
And I think it's just how you adjust as well. Like, it's a nice test to be out there. And obviously it's scarred you so much that you've come onto this podcast. So no, I mean, exactly the opposite. Sorry for my sarcasm, but like I feel like you've thrived being in this space. Can I just ask before we go on, did you do anything like this working in your corporate career? So you are doing some stuff in that space, and you're teaching now, and your focus is there. But when you were like at Unilever and previous kind of other areas, did you do anything like this, running of events or like doing stuff internally? Have you had experience in that kind of stuff before?
Yeah, I mean, I still have a corporate career and do a lot of presentations. So have I ran my own events? They've always been under the guise of my company.
So
and
the
I think that was the
there.
difference. Yeah, International Women's Day, for example, the company that I'm working with now, we had this amazing turnout. And then I've then done things as Hannah, and it's harder people are like, well, what's this? So it's very different. But luckily, my career has given me lots of opportunity to build up a level of confidence in some areas like that.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's get into the business you're doing now, Fire and Forte. All right. So for this next part, we want to get into more about Fire and Forte and what that's all about. So for someone that you might just like meet on the street or like in an elevator or in just like a business kind of setting, and they wanted to know more about Fire and Forte, what do you tell them?
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm passionate about women winning in the AI age. I think that AI can be a massive positive thing, but I think we need to give more people access to those skills in order to leverage this vast amount of experience that people have got, but transfer them into the AI age. So I work with enterprises and individuals to help ensure that women thrive in the future of AI.
Amazing. That's you. You have done this before.
I was going to say, I wish I'd practiced that.
No, it sounded so good, and you'll get the replay obviously here to refine it, and you can use AI to help you refine it. I guess that's the beauty of it all. Like, you've been diving into this space and helping out others, but you mentioned the two different areas there, like the individual and the enterprise. If we start off with the enterprise, like, how is it that you help them? What kind of things could you be doing for an enterprise that you are helping? Whether you want to name some of those enterprises or not, doesn't matter, but or you can. Yeah, just what do you do for businesses in that space?
Yeah, so very much a two-pronged approach, really. We need directors and senior leaders to really understand what AI is about. For various reasons, so much cost is involved, there's so much risk. So I start at the top, which is engaging in a level of the exec, for example, and building a very basic foundational level of knowledge. So explaining what the benefits are and how I believe that we can unlock them, and then identifying very top line where the use cases could be. So this might be 30 minutes with a leadership team, maybe an hour. It's not full day workshops. This is really acknowledging where they might be in the journey, and the fact that I'm not from the Big Four, but I am there to introduce opportunities, knowing what these CPG and retail businesses are like and where the pain points are. So the top part of it is giving them the awareness that I don't just want budget signed off. I need you to know some fundamentals around the risks and the opportunities. And then it's saying, I want the green light to go and talk to the teams on a more a granular level, to have, say, for example, an all company webinar where anyone and everybody can dial in into a 1 hour webinar to understand the basics. And then we get this large spread building foundational knowledge of AI. And from that, what I love is that people start putting their hand up to you and saying, can I ask you a few questions after that session? And from there, I build AI squads.
Oh, okay.
And that's
squads, AI squads.
An AI squad, yeah.
Okay.
It is the coolest thing. So these are people that have reached out to me.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's really important, because I think it's not, here's an opportunity to be involved in an extra bit of work. It's people that organically and naturally have got that interest and engagement. And at the moment, what we're doing with some of these squads is meeting once a month and just talking about pain points and opportunities and experimenting.
Wow.
And these are not unlocking, obviously, thousands of dollars of savings yet. This is about becoming familiar with AI and being able to be a spokesperson to your team and go back and say, hey, we did this really cool thing.
It's just being able to speak the language. You need to be able to speak the language, or like learn the basics of speaking the language first, right? So you're helping these businesses get that sort of stuff. And you mentioned the individuals. How does it work for the individuals that you might be working with? Are they typically from those organizations, or is it, people that have reached out separately? Like how does the help for the individuals work?
So they reach out to me within the organization, and it is a once a month kind of session. Obviously, we've got Slack conversation as well, so we can educate each other, send use cases and that kind of thing. And it's very workshoppy. So what we did at the beginning is just say, has anyone used AI now? What's everyone using it for? And we kind of brainstormed some different opportunities and then began to support each other. So, one of the team said, actually, I've got so much data analysis, I don't know how to, get through it all. So I did some research and say, here's 3 tools, go and have a go. And in a business, you need line manager approval. Have they got enough time? Can we give them half a day, once a week, whatever that looks like, so that they've got the actual time in their diary? Yeah.
That's I think it's a good approach, because if you only did it from the one side, like you might have buy-in from SMT management execs, but they're pushing it down, and it doesn't feel like it's going to have as good an adoption as if it were to be built from the ground up. And if you only did it from the ground up but without sign off from above, they're not given the access in the room. And I don't think that all businesses can afford what effectively is known as like Google time, where once a fortnight or whatever, Google engineers could develop and just experiment and do stuff. But I think we are in an age where it's not, yes, there's a curve, there's a hurdle to get over, but it's not as hard as it used to be before. And that's another thing with a lot of these tools. Yeah, you've got to learn them, but they're making it easier to do that. If you look at ChatGPT today versus 12 months ago, it's so much different in terms of what it can do now. So what's interesting is like what you're doing there around the education, and tying it back to the, how the focus is with Fire and Forte on the older community, that those that have, they're having their Fire and Forte moment, so to speak. I'm assuming that's how the name kind of came about and stuff, like after turning 40.
Quickly, yeah, Fire and Forte is, so that's the name of the podcast that I did, where I interviewed 40 women. And then I've called Fire Up Skills is what I'm calling the upskilling program. But they are all part of the same thing. Fire and Forte was about reaching this point in your life where the fire is your passion and what really lights you up. And forte is play on the word 40, obviously, but also about this strength. And some of that could be in the conviction, but also in the experience that you've got.
I like the name and stuff there, because a lot of people think that when it comes to AI that, oh, it's a young person's game, or any new technology. Even if it were 20 years ago, whoever was 40 at the time back then is probably, you know, nearing retirement now, probably thought that, oh, this is a younger person's game and stuff. And what we're realizing, people are starting to see more and more in businesses that we're dealing with, and I'm sure you're seeing it as well. Yeah, the young people, they've got the fire in them to be able to do this, but they don't have the experience or even the command in an organization, because of the lack of experience, to drive things. So they might have the ideas, and that's great. So this thing doesn't work unless you have the older crowd, me being one of them, by the way, folks, so don't get it wrong. But unless you do have because we've got the experience and we can make those changes and we've got the power. So it's nice that you're bringing up that part of the equation, because I feel like it's not paid attention to enough.
Yeah, and you've really moved into a topic that I'm really passionate about. So job losses and job cuts are on the way.
Yep.
And I am such an optimist that I always hate saying this, but it's happening now.
We're seeing it. Telstra
Exactly.
said they're cutting 10% of their workforce, and they said it's not AI, but the week before they signed a deal with Infosys that is all about AI automation. So yeah, it's happening.
I mean, it's interesting as well who's admitting that it's AI. In some ways, it's a really positive message to send out to shareholders that AI is increasing productivity, and other organizations are not talking about it. What I am passionate about is that you have got so much experience, like you just referenced, in people across the organization. Now, women are already on the back foot, especially as we go up into the leadership ranks. And now there is potential that you're going to, more women are going to be impacted by those job losses. So by 2027, the World Economic Forum have predicted that 42% of tasks can be automated. And there's going to be more jobs created, but more jobs lost than new jobs created. So there's going to be a net loss of 14 million jobs. So if we just basically broadly look at that people are going to be out of work, what if you lose all of that locked up knowledge that's in an organization? So at the moment, organizations are going, great, savings are on the way. You know, we've got this really big cost line in people. We'll lose the people because we've got this saving that's coming up along in the future. I can see it. You can't unlock that value unless you've got the experience of people saying, I know the pain points, I know how this business works, I know how to therefore add value or make savings with AI because I understand the organization.
I think that's massively important, that it's not just, you're talking about it more from like the experience to get the best out of a technology, whether it's AI or something else. People that are experts will be able to get more out of it because they actually understand the pain points. Another part of it is that for verification processes, like we've seen that AI doesn't always get things right. Hallucinations happen, but they wouldn't have happened if you had proper processes to have a human in the loop. So, and this is like where we're coming from. Like, we believe that humans should be at the center of how AI works. There's definitely things that it will automate and get rid of mundane tasks. But to your point there, it's not going to know how best to do things, or the people that are programmed AI won't know how best to do things unless they actually have that experience. So experience is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, and that passion for the end customer. The fact that 5 years ago, 1 year ago, I saw this thing happen before, or, you know, with this credit card, we can't give this person this credit limit, and last time we got really bad PR for that, or that was, we broke a regulation with that. That knowledge, all of this is avoidable. I truly believe so much is avoidable. And when we talk about this net job loss, and what you're referencing there as well is the human in the loop, the ethics, the governance. What if you can retrain? So what if, like a lot of jobs, the manual stuff will come out of it, and actually there's not enough for a full-time job, but I would love to do an ethical role and move into AI ethics. And I really want women, particularly who are at risk, to begin thinking, what's my plan B?
Yeah, I think this, and to that point, it's about lowering. There are so many ideas running through my head, but there's definitely like a lower barrier of entry to get access to the tools and to skill up in these technologies. And at the same time, it's this massive opportunity for women right now to bring themselves up the curve and to be involved in groups like what you're doing with the talks that you've got, the sessions that you're running, and we're going to see like, and we'll talk about that next, the international stuff that you're doing. But you touched on another point there before. So, definitely if you're feeling vulnerable, whether women or otherwise in the workforce, like come along to the events that are going on, listen to the speakers, reach out to the people that are here. Like we're willing to help people. But you mentioned something before about the experience, and AI works based on, and there's a bit of reasoning, and I'll argue for that in another podcast, but like there's definitely, it's trained off experiences and it's trained off things that have been written. But we're realizing that where there are the gaps in like, oh, the AI, it didn't work here or it didn't work there, it's because it hasn't been trained on that kind of experience. And this is where the beauty is, right? There are so many things, like we thought that we had a lot of information out there. And we're realizing, thanks to being able to talk to something that's effectively as smart as all of the internet, right? By seeing it's got gaps, we're realizing that there's gaps in the knowledge that we fed into these models. So this is where that experience from women, from the more experienced worker comes in, right? Like we can bring all of this stuff into these AI models. The AI models that we've got today, they're the worst it's ever going to be. Like it's only just getting better. I mean, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, really interesting. It's almost like you want to look at the world today, whereas we're looking backwards over the last however many years, and that's what's fed into AI. But if you think about parents, what do they want their children to be growing up into? And therefore, what should AI represent? So bias and discrimination. This example from Uber Eats is something that I think we can all take. It's very, very sobering that a guy in London, a delivery driver for Uber Eats, was not able to access his account. So he wasn't able to work repeatedly because of the facial recognition, because it was racial discrimination, he believed, because it didn't recognize his face. And he believed it had been trained on so many Caucasian faces, it didn't recognize his face.
Wow.
And he was found to be correct, or he got a payment because of it. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Thank goodness that thing happened, because then we should all wake up and say, that is the kind of discrimination, because the facial recognition didn't recognize it. So where are the checks and balances as a business to make sure that you're not doing anything like that? And then as an, so that you know the checks to do. And then from an individual to fight for other people's rights and to make sure that you could be discriminated against for any of your background, you know?
Absolutely. We just don't know what we don't know, and this helps bring it out. And speaking of the Uber Eats situation and these biases that are there, it speaks back to what you mentioned at the start around enterprise adoption. And that's definitely been a key focus for you, because it's not just, there's the podcast and the skilling up of people, but this doesn't matter unless there is enterprise adoption. So what exactly are you thinking about there in terms of ideas, frameworks, etc.?
Well, I built a framework recently. There is nothing like signing up for a talk, being accepted, and then thinking, okay, I need to actually write this talk now. And I built a framework based on how I have seen organizations transform, the difference between the businesses that succeed and those that kind of stall. And it so often comes down to individuals. This is the thing, a tech transformation often doesn't fail because of the tech, it's because of the humans.
Yeah.
And I've seen firsthand the difference between growth mindset and the difference between this kind of resistance. So the framework that I talked about is something called Sparrow, which the reason it's called Sparrow is because it actually links to the need to be a jack-in-a-box if you are launching something like AI in an organization. What I mean by that is, when I was launching or really really focused on accelerating e-commerce when COVID hit at the company that I was at. I was like a jack in a box. I had to pop up in every meeting possible, town halls, team meetings, to make sure we embed this into people, that everyone understands the numbers and the data and the opportunities. It's the same with AI, but rather than Jack in a box, I went with Jack Sparrow. So
Sparrow, I love it.
That's where Sparrow comes from. And Sparrow talks about the need to really know your organization, so that's study, get to know your power partners, aspiration, so sell an aspiration, and then realize value. Embed it into organizations, which I called root into organizations. I'll have to come back to what the O stood for. But then W was about welfare. And
Amazing.
Welfare was to that point around, are you considering the welfare of your end customer? And have you got a human in the loop in order to do that? And raising that, everyone being so conscious of the harm that AI can do, as well as being able to evangelize about the benefits and the opportunities of AI.
I think it's great that it's got an acronym and a name and stuff. And I was thinking Sparrow, it's like a Bond film of some sort, like a mastermind kind of plan. And obviously, like the Bond films, the plans are usually by the bad guys. And I'm not saying that at all with this, but like I just really love the name. Like it evokes like a good sense of, the type of intrigue that people need to have about this sort of stuff, because this is not just like, okay, they're going to do something over there in that part of the business. No, this is something that actually affects everyone from whatever you're doing. Like I have not seen a role where AI does not play at least a part, if not a big part.
I'm nodding like furiously, going, absolutely. So digital transformations are so expensive. And the companies that get it wrong, and there is so much wasted money, have not brought the whole organization with them. They think it's an IT department. We've got an example in Australia at the moment where a budget was set for one retailer of $80 million for a digital transformation, and it's been blown out by an extra 200 million, and they still haven't finished.
You say 80 and it blew out to an extra 200.
An extra 200 million. Like it is a sobering lesson for everybody. And to your point, it is all encompassing. The organization needs to be, I believe, just educated, excited, involved with, and you'll have different mindsets involved, but having some hands-on experience so that actually there's nothing to fear and it's not being pushed down on me, but I'm involved in a project that I'm adding value to. Oh, I get it now. And then I believe that you can have both success, build skills, everyone's a winner, and not waste $200 million.
I mean, they could have given some other groups that we know of $200 million. No. We do it for $1 million. But the interesting thing is that it's not just AI where this has happened. Whether it's blockchain transformation that is starting to come along, and we've seen and we've spoken about that in the show, the AI stuff, digital transformations of any sort, even just getting new websites. And I was speaking to someone that they've just got a new website in there, and they now get, because they've been quite new to their firm, they get to showcase that, hey, look, this is what I've done. It makes it easier for them to do other things like bring AI into the business. So it's fascinating. Now, with all of this kind of stuff, it's great, and people will go, how do I reach out to Hannah? I want to talk to her and stuff. But you're going to be overseas for a little bit. So can you tell us about your London trip? When are you heading over there? What are you going to be doing?
So I'll be back in October and running an event. So see you at the Microsoft Reactor. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'll post about it there. So I have got some weddings that I'm going to in France, and then I'm going to London. 2 weddings.
Okay. 2 more needed. No funerals, but just
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a fun party weekend in between. But yeah, what am I doing in London? So as we started this, we talked about women in their 40s and that kind of age group. So for the last year, my events have been building a community of women with lots of experience in their careers, from lawyers to category managers, sales specialists, marketing managers, etc., And we've had these AI events where women from AI backgrounds, and guys actually, but women as well, have been giving talks and educating women not in AI on AI. And they have been great. They have been scary. They've always ended up being wonderful. And I'm doing one of those in London. So I have been blown away by the support that I've had, reaching out to a few people. And it sounds like they need what we're doing in London as much as they do here in Sydney. So on the 10th of July, I've got an event where I've got a great speaker from LinkedIn, Diageo, so a number of great speakers. LinkedIn, Diageo, BBC. She's a diversity and inclusion expert in tech. It's going to be amazing. And an Accenture consultant who's phenomenal. And the managing director of the social media platform We Are 8, which is a fantastic social media platform powered by AI, where it's about social media for good. And the AI is involved in lots of things, including scanning for toxic and trolling that happens on social media.
Not too shabby a start, my goodness. I'm glad that what we could offer, apart from hopefully a good chat, was like the nice kind of backdrop, as you can see here. But like that's an amazing lineup that you've got there. And when is that? Is that already set in terms of the date, or it's still being planned?
Yeah, so it's Wednesday, the 10th of July at the
Amazing.
Accenture head office in London. Yeah.
Because you never know, there might be people watching this show that are traveling and stuff that might be over there. I need to get back to Europe at some point soon. It won't be July, unfortunately, but you know, hopefully soon and stuff there. You can tell me all about what London's like now. But beyond that, are you going to be doing some other travels, do you think? Like what's the kind of plan? You've got a bit of time until October, really.
Well, exactly. So I'm planning a trip over to the US. So another one of my favorite AI platforms is founded by a female called Navrina Singh. And it's called Credo AI. It's a governance platform. She's also been assisting the US government in regulation.
Yep. People would have seen Credo AI in the news. So
yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I've reached out to her and planning to meet her, so that's probably a bit too much information, but I'm going to do a little bit of just meeting people. I just want to see what I can make happen and get to know people. So I'm hoping to go to San Fran and New York if possible.
Well, I think it's this space, because it's so new, there are definitely people that wanting to learn more are very open, like we've seen here in Australia, to just connecting and just seeing what, you know, if someone is traveling and visiting, we're always open to like having a chat and stuff, especially if it's to do with the topics of emerging tech, blockchain or AI, because we are it's still very new. So like, it's great to see that you're going to be over there and doing that. So if anyone out there is watching this and can put Hannah in touch with anyone, please do, and we'll be doing the same. But when people want to learn more about what you're doing, the websites, reaching out to you, what are the best ways for folks to do that?
Yeah, I'll just start by saying, to your point about help, you've been so helpful and introduced me to people like Nikki, and I've been to her events and so many other people. And I think it is so scary for people just to ask for a bit of help. And I, just really back up what you said, which is just ask. I mean, it's people want to help other people. So thank you. And reach out to me, LinkedIn, Hannah Maude, Maude. My LinkedIn company page is Fire Up Skills, and my website is fireandforte.com.
Perfect. So you'll see the links to those in the show notes. So click below. Please definitely reach out. And if you're interested more in what you're doing, your travels, hopefully, I mean, even if you weren't thinking about writing a diary or a blog, I reckon you could just take a few of your, just rough scribbles and notes from what's going on in your travels and just getting it to turn itself into a blog thanks to AI. So looking forward to what you get to share from all of that.
Yeah, everything apart from the party weekend, because that's in Ibiza, and I don't know if I've still got it at 41. Yes, I have. But yeah, no, that's a great idea, because I'm hoping to just soak up so much what's happening in communities and with innovation and in all this space. So great shout.
Brilliant. All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for having a listen. Hannah, thank you so much for all of this and agreeing to jump on before, you're in the middle of so much before you have to go. So really thank you for your time, and we'll see you when you're back.
Amazing. See you in October. Thanks, Mark.